Good morning, Year 3. I hope you had a brilliant day yesterday. So today we're going to be doing some reading Vipers on Chapter 1. Okay, so yesterday we read Chapter 1 and you described Charlie. You wrote descriptive sentences about Charlie. So today we're going to go into more detail about Chapter 1 by answering some Vipers questions. Okay, so you can see on the screen there are your questions that you need to answer. So you have got questions from the vocabulary section, the infer section. You haven't got any from the predict because you did your prediction on Monday. Okay, you've then got some explain questions, some retrieve questions, and a summarize question. Okay, so that's what you're going to be doing today. So I just want to show you that on the website, and I will also put it on, send it in the email as well. Here is Chapter 1 as a PDF, so you can read it at home, okay? So if you want to do what we did yesterday and go back through the video and watch and look at the pictures in the video to see the book, then that's fine. But here is also Chapter 1 as a PDF. It's got no pictures in, but it's got exactly the same writing in. Okay, so you might be able to have a look at this today because you'll be needing to look at Chapter 1 to answer these questions correctly. Okay, so that's Chapter 1 there for you, and that's on the website as I've just said, and I will email it out today as well. Okay, so we're going to be looking at Vipers questions as I've just said. So we know that Vipers stand for vocabulary, infer, predict, explain, retrieve, and summarize. Do we actually know what those words mean? Okay, so here I've put all of their meanings down. Okay, so for vocabulary, we find and explain the meaning of words in context. So any words that we're not too sure of, or any words that we want to find the meaning of, that's what we do in vocabulary. When we're looking at infer questions, we are making and justifying inferences using evidence from the text. So we're not just making things up, we're using what we can see in the text and inferring and saying why we think that. Okay? Predict, you did that on Monday, so you're going to predict what might happen from the details given and implied, and you all did that, so well done. Explain is a little bit of a tricky one. So when you explain, there's lots of different reasons for explaining, but today's explain questions are how meaning is enhanced through choice of language. So basically that's just a posh way of saying what meaning is Roald Dahl, the author, trying to get across by the different words that he uses. Okay? Retrieve, so that's our very nice and easy one. So we're a dog retrieving our bone. Retrieve and record information and identify key details from fiction and non-fiction. So you're literally getting the information and using that as your answer. And lastly, summarize. This is where we just summarize the main ideas from more than one paragraph. So if, for example, the chapter, you're going to maybe summarize what has happened in Chapter 1. So you're not going to tell me exactly what's happened word for word. You're going to make that into a short summary and tell me what has happened. Okay then, so we're going to go through some of the questions that are on that sheet, your work for today. We're going to have a look at our vocabulary questions to start off with, okay? And then these are all the other questions that you need to do for today, please. Okay then, so vocabulary. Now before I've started, I've also got dictionary.com up as well, because I haven't got a dictionary in front of me, so I'm going to use the website dictionary. Okay, and this is exactly what you can do as well, just in case we need to look for any meanings of words. Right then, so let's see what our first question is then. What is a draft? So as you can see here, I have got the text where the word draft is. Okay, so now I'm going to use my skimming and scanning tools, and I'm just going to skim and scan until I can find this word draft. So let's see if I can find it. You need to have a look for it as well. Just keep skimming and scanning. So you're not exactly reading it in detail. You're just skimming the words in the sentences to see whether you can find that word beginning with D, that draft. Aha, there we go. Excellent, found it. So this is something that you need to make sure that you are doing. You're using the text and you're finding the answer. So yes, we find that, but we haven't answered this question yet. I'm just going to read what it says. So, in the summertime, this wasn't too bad, but in the winter, freezing cold drafts blew across the floor all night long, and it was awful. Okay, so what is a draft then? So, I'm going to go onto the dictionary and I'm going to type in draft. If you already know what draft is, that's brilliant, okay? Using it in the context of that story. Hopefully it all loads very quickly. There we go. Okay, so a draft then. Well, it's not British. Okay, so for some reason it wasn't coming up on dictionary.com what I wanted it to come up. So I've just Googled what is a draft, and here it says straight away a current of cold air in a room or other confined spaces. So this especially links with this a freezing cold draft. So draft is cold air coming through small gaps in a confined space. Okay, so you might hear the word draft and you might see the word spelled like that as well. Okay, so it is a synonym, a homophone, sorry, of draft there. But because this text is written, and I think it is American, they're using this word, this spelling as draft. Okay, so draft is cold air coming through small gaps in a confined space. So because they are in a very, very small room, their door perhaps, did it say door? Or across the floor all night long, yeah. So their door has, obviously at the bottom of the door, there's a tiny, tiny, tiny little gap. But because they haven't got a proper bed to sleep on, you wouldn't normally feel a draft underneath that small gap of a door. But because they're lying on the mattress on a floor, because they're closer to the floor, they can feel the cold air coming in and draft and blowing on them. Okay, so that's not very nice, is it? Okay then, so draft is cold air coming through small gaps in confined space. Right then, last question for their vocabulary then. It says define tortured. So it's not exactly saying, please can you find the meaning of tortured? It's just saying define. So when that word is define, it's asking you to tell me what that word means. It's asking you to find the definition of tortured. So again, I've got the text here and we're going to skim and scan and see whether we can find tortured. But I haven't yet told you about the one awful thing that, there we go, straight away. Tortured little Charlie. Okay, so what do we think tortured means? If you know the answer, you can write it down straight away. But I'm going to try again with dictionary.com and I'm going to write in tortured. And do tortured to start off with. Okay, then, so here we go. So torture, the act of inflicting excruciating pain as punishment or revenge, as means of getting a confession of information or for sheer cruelty. Okay then, so it's to cause pain on someone. Okay, so he is tortured, he feels tortured because he loves chocolate and it's absolute torture. It causes him pain to be living outside of a chocolate factory, because we know that Charlie and his family aren't very rich, they don't have a lot of money. So when he does have chocolate, it's only once a year on his birthday, and he only has tiny, tiny nibbles of that chocolate to make him last. Okay, so he is very, very strong-willed to only have that amount of chocolate. All right, I know I couldn't do that. So you are going to answer your Vipers questions today. So you've already done the vocabulary part. You can magpie those answers that we have just looked at. Okay. So then you've got some infer questions, some explain questions, lots of retrieve questions, because they're the nice and easy questions that you can just literally find the answer and write it down. And then one summarise question. Okay. So we're going into more detail about our book this term. We're making sure that you are using all of your Viper skills as much as we can. Right then, I hope you have a super day. And remember, if you need any help or support, please email myself or Mr. Grocott, and we'll be more than happy to help you. Speak to you all tomorrow. Bye.